Hi, I'm Keith Howard, the official George Reeves Superman. Well, at least that's what they used to call me. Now I'm just Keith Howard, regular guy. It's been about 15 years since that poster was made for a live performance in Metropolis, Illinois. I had the amazing opportunity to wear that costume and portray who I think is one of the finest Supermen ever on screen, George Reeves. You might recognize the painting from behind Perry White's desk. I've got a lot of stuff around here still that reminds me of those years in Metropolis. But none of that would have been possible if it hadn't been for one man, Jim Hambrick. You see, I was a nobody. Nobody knew about me. Nobody knew who I was. I had been out there a couple years earlier with my wife and my two kids, and we had a fun time. It was like being a little kid all over again, seeing people dressed up as our favorite characters, mostly a bunch of Supermen walking around. Comics, the artists were out there, and a couple of celebrities. I can't tell you who they were back in 2007, 2008 probably. But a couple of years later, I wanted to go back. But I remembered feeling like there was something about the event that was missing something to me. And I thought, I guess what I expected was a little bit more along the lines of entertainment, like somebody that would put on a performance. Maybe a movie would be shown, or just something. It was one of those things where you had things going on all over the place. Tent down here for kids to do kid stuff. A tent over there where people were talking about trivia and all sorts of things that you just picked where you wanted to go and what you wanted to do and showed up and did your thing. But at the end of the day, there was no like under one tent kind of thing where you could go to a live performance. And so I thought, you know what? I've got an idea. But who would take some guy who's only visited the Superman celebration once or twice, doesn't know anybody, has no connections down there? And I remember I went down there and I entered the costume contest. Now, I was in my mid-40s then, 45, which is about the same age as old George was when he was on TV. And I thought, well, that's the guy I can associate with and connect with because he's that age, so maybe I can pull this off. There was a lady at our church that made like clothing for her kids and herself. And so I asked her, would you help me make a costume? And so she kind of fitted me and she made her own little pattern and we threw together a costume. Not this one, a light blue, because I was looking at the videos of the time and they had colorized some old black and white images. And so we all our colors were all wrong. Anyway, I get down there and I show up and I get a little bit of attention. People are like, there's no George Reeves walking around here and your suit looks pretty darn good. So I made some friends the first year and I asked somebody about this live entertainment thing. I've got an idea, but I don't know where I would do it or how it would work. And I was told, you need to talk to Jim Hambrick. That's the guy at the museum, right? Yeah. Oh, he's kind of a big deal, right? And they said, well, yeah, but go talk to him. And so I called him and I said that you don't know me. I was in the costume contest this year, but a guy showed up who looked just like Christopher Reeve. He had won the contest that year, and so I didn't get very far, but I just said that I was there this year, and I think he remembered me because of the George Reeves and how unique that was. And I said, I've got an idea, and I understand you've got this annual auction that you do at the Baymont, and you use their stage, and that ballroom is all set up for that. I'm just curious, would you let me borrow the stage area and perform a live skit, like a play, for the people there? And I said, I'd love to come down and pitch it for you. So I brought down some Legos, I think, and some action figures, and I showed him what my plan was. And the plan was to have a screen on one side of the stage that would show clips from the I Love Lucy episode. We were going to do the second half of that episode. I was going to need a narrator, somebody who would come up there and set the thing up and kind of tell you what the episode was about, and then we were going to act out the rest of it. And I was going to have a big set built for the inside of the apartment and the outer wall, because Lucy gets stuck on that wall. And anyway, here I am, and I had talked to a young lady that I had met that year of the costume contest, Tiffany Cressy. I've been calling her Crease for years, but I think it's Cressy. She was wonderful, so sweet, and I knew she had some acting background. And so I asked her, would you be interested in playing Lucy in this a little skit that I'm going to pitch to Mr. Hambrick? And she said, I would love to. She didn't know me, but so friendly. Everybody was just so wonderful that year. And I said, okay, I'm going to reach out to Jim, and we're going to try to set up a meeting. She came to my house. We drove down there, and we met with Jim at lunch. He took us out for lunch. And we sat down, and I broke it down for him. Here's what I'd like to do. And Jim's a man of few words. He's a very intense man. And he's a big guy. And so I felt very intimidated sitting across from him. He did share stories about how he got the museum and how, over the years, how it has evolved into what it was at that time, and that he was getting a lot of help from his daughter, Morgan, and another daughter, and I am so bad with names, and so I'm not even going to attempt to remember her name, who was running the other museum, I think. But it was wonderful, all the very cool stories that he was telling. And I really got the sense that if he didn't care about me or the two of us there and what we were there to do, he wouldn't have taken the time to go over that and to have that conversation with us and share all those fun memories. But he did. And he said, yeah, you can have the stage, and then what we'll do is we'll bring the tables back up there after the skit's over, and we'll have our auction afterwards. And it was, I walked out of there just shaking my head like I can't believe that went so well. What a great human being Jim Hambrick is, because he did not know me. And even after sitting down talking to me that day, he still really didn't know me. He had no idea that I'd be able to pull this off. It was all a gut feeling and the support of a man who could see that I was very passionate about this idea. And I think maybe he was a little curious. Are you really going to be able to pull that off? And many people that were there that year that saw the I Love Lucy episode that we did still talk about it. Even to this day, if you bring it up amongst some people, you'll hear fun stories of what a great opportunity that was for us to get up there, and what a memorable thing that was for them. My gut was right. They needed the entertainment, and we gave it to them, and we gave them something that they'll talk about for years. And still do. And I came back the next year. I learned how to sew. I didn't. I wanted an accurate colored costume, and this is just about the closest replica I've ever seen, all the way down to the boots. I made every bit of that, and would not have had that opportunity had it not been for my affiliation with Metropolis and the people there, and specifically Jim Hambrick. The next year, he let us use his stage again, and we did another live performance, this time the entire episode of The Perils of Superman. And wow, just an amazing, amazing opportunity. I can't speak highly enough for Jim. Again, a man of few words, and if you didn't know that about him, and if you didn't know him well, you might think he was less than friendly. I wouldn't say unfriendly. He was never unfriendly to people, but I, I don't know. I don't know the best way to describe his. I don't think he was overwhelmed with his own celebrity. I'm not sure if that makes sense. He had people that wanted to be around him, and he probably saw the good and the bad that comes with that over the years. And to keep a certain healthy distance is probably what he learned, to make sure that you protect yourself, your family, and I think that was how Jim conducted himself. Very professional, but a real genuine deep heart on that guy. We talked a number of times over the years, not long conversations, but when I would see him, we would have conversations that would be short but meaningful. And I miss him. I miss everybody in Metropolis. I've been away for some 12 years now. I haven't gone back, and knowing that he's not going to be there, it's going to make it harder to go when I do finally go back. I remember years after, the couple years after the live performances that we did in Metropolis, the Mike Meyer story came out, and the Super Friends of Metropolis had gotten a lot of international publicity because we took up a big collection for Mike, and I gained a friend. And when I talked to Mike and I got to know Mike, I remember Mike telling me that years ago he had been to Metropolis, and oh, how he wanted to meet Jim Hambrick. Oh, Jim Hambrick this and Jim Hambrick that. He just thought the world of Jim. And then after the events that occurred with Mike and our involvement with him, Mike did get to finally meet Jim, and they did get to talk. And I just know how important that was for Mike, how special that was that Jim took the time. Jim probably orchestrated a lot when it came to the Mike Meyer situation. I don't know who did it. It was probably Jim. It might have been Stephen Kirk. But somebody got word to Brandon Routh, who was the Superman Returns Superman in 2006. And all this occurred back in like 2011 or 12. So not too terribly long after Brandon Routh had gotten his time wearing the cape. And Brandon was contacted by somebody, and he called Mike. He got Mike's phone number and called him. And they talked on the phone for 30 minutes. Mike was just elated and just said, I got to talk to Superman for a half hour. That's amazing. And I couldn't swear by it. I'd love to find out how, but I can't swear by the fact that maybe it was Jim that set that up. It's something that I think he would do. He's that kind of person. And Jim, if you're looking down now on us, I hope we make you proud in living out the lives that we live, aspiring to be greater than we are. I know your daughter, Morgan, has taken what you've started to greater heights. And man, I know you're proud of her. What an amazing talent. What an amazing tribute to her father in carrying on his legacy in the way she has. I miss you, Jim. We all do. And thank you for leaving the West Coast and coming to Middle America and opening up a museum and touching so many of us the way you have. I hope that for those of you who did get to meet him and you have your own recollection of how Jim was with you and some stories that you might be able to tell, why don't you share them too? I'd like to watch a video or two. It makes me feel closer to him, and it makes me feel closer to you. Please forgive me for not being there this year and for all these years. Maybe because I've got a cover band now, maybe I can talk our band into coming out there and performing some year. Maybe there will be some opportunity that we can come to that tent on a Friday or Saturday night and we can perform where Jamie Kelly used to perform. That would be awesome. That would be a wonderful experience for us, and I'd love it if we could make that happen. Anyway, thank you for listening. You guys take care and God bless.